Hey guys, welcome back and welcome to the first day of Drugstore week. That's right, we are doing a full week of drugstore videos Monday through Friday. Every single day we are getting a new video based on drugstore products, new stuff that's released, and just things that I want to talk about. So today we're talking about 3 new drugstore eyeshadow palettes that are recently released that I think are bomb and y'all definitely need to check out. So the first one that we're going to talk about is the Magnif'eyes, the Rimmel London Magnif'eyes Spice Edition palette. Next we have the L'Oreal Paradise Enchanted palette, and we have the Maybelline Lemonade Craze palette. So I've been using all of these for a couple of weeks and I definitely have some thoughts, so I figured I would make a whole video and compare them. So I hope you guys like today's video, and without further ado, let's get into this. So I'm going to start with the one that I think I was the most impressed by, and that is the Rimmel palette. Now, I have never tried a Rimmel palette in the past. I had no idea what to expect with this formula, but if all of their palettes are like this, then I'm going to have to check out the rest of them because this formula is just amazing. So right off the bat, I realized that this was a total dupe for the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette, which y'all know is one of my favorite palettes. It's actually sitting right back here on my tabletop because I love it and need to have it within reach at all times. But I immediately noticed that this was a total dupe. The only 2 shades that are different is this first shade is totally white in this palette, whereas in the Urban Decay one, it's more of a like skin color nude cream type of shade. And then the third shade in this palette is a shimmer, whereas in the Naked Heat it is a total matte. So those are the only 2 differences. All the rest of them are the exact same, and honestly this just performed so much beyond my expectations. I don't even know if that was correct English, but this palette just blew my socks off. The pigmentation is amazing. They're creamy, they're soft, they're easy to blend, and they're just like butter. I mean, look at those shimmers. That has such an amazing amount of shift to it. It's just, they really blew it out of the water with this palette. Not only that, but the mattes are just as beautiful and creamy and soft and pigmented. They're just wow. And beyond the swatches, because swatches can be totally deceiving, these blend so beautifully on the eyes. They're very pigmented, but not like overly pigmented, and they're soft and they're very powdery. They remind me a lot of the Anastasia formula because they're very powdery and you get a lot of kick up, but they just blend so effortlessly on the eyes. And one of my favorite things about this palette is that there is no fallout whatsoever. It's insane. I've used every single shade in this palette and not one of them had any sort of fallout on my face. They lasted all day long on my eyes. One of my favorite things about this is the shimmers look wet on your eyes. There was a video I did a few weeks ago. I'll have to see if I can go back and find it and link it down below, because if you look at my eyeshadow, my like inner lid literally looked wet, and that's because I took, what did I take? I took this shade right here and then I topped it with the white shade, and these 2 mixed together is just intensely pigmented and just beautifully wet looking. I love using this white shade as a topper for the other shimmers just to kind of create my own shade, and it's just phenomenal. So I highly recommend this. I believe it was under $10. I'll have everything linked down below if I can. I think this one is a Walgreens exclusive. I don't know if it's online yet, but definitely check your local Walgreens because y'all, I don't say this often, but you need this palette. It's beautiful. If you like warm tones, if you like shimmers, if you like the Naked Heat, this palette is a beautiful dupe and just a beautiful palette in general. It's just, I've been obsessed with this palette so much lately. So moving on to the next palette, we we have the Maybelline Lemonade Craze palette. Now, when I saw this online, I immediately knew I was going to buy it. There was no doubt in my mind that this was going to be mine. So I bought it on pre-order and got it as soon as it was released. And I am blown away by this palette. Now, the two shades that I feel like really make this palette unique are the pink and the yellow. And I would say those were the most disappointing. Now, they are beautiful shades, but they are not really pigmented. The pink is definitely more pigmented than the yellow. Like, you can't, let me see if I can build that yellow up some. So you can see the yellow right there, the pink right there. The pink is definitely more pigmented, but it's one of those shades that it just doesn't work on its own. It's not gonna be one of those shades that you can kind of like pack all over the lid and get like a pink lid or anything like that. It definitely has its own sheerness to it, but it is really nice. I find all of these shades to be so easily blendable. This palette definitely has a level of powderiness to it, but it's not overly powdery, and it's not quite as powdery as the Rimmel one, but you definitely have some sort of kickback when you put your brush in. But again, no real fallout. The only fallout that I necessarily notice is from applying the shimmers. They stick well on the eyes, and I don't find they fall throughout the day. It's just when you're first applying it, you do get a healthy amount of glitter fallout on your under eyes. So I would just say use or do your eyes before you do your foundation and all of that, and you'll be fine. Now, this palette is beautiful, but one of my favorite shades in here is the yellow, despite the fact that I did say that it was slightly disappointing. I did not know how much I needed this yellow in my life until I had it. So I don't even use this as like a real color on my eyes, if that makes sense. My favorite way to use this is to take a nice fluffy brush. This is what I would normally use for my like crease and everything. And I will take this brush into the yellow, tap off the excess, and run it just right here along the edge of my eyeshadow. After I'm totally done with everything else, I just take a little bit and just run it right here. I love it as like that finishing touch to add that extra dimension to my eyeshadow that it really, I didn't even know it needed, but I can't stop using it now that I have it. It's beautiful. Now, the only other shade that I really wanted to kind of touch on is this shade right here called Main Squeeze. This is an interesting shade. It's much more glitter than base. So personally, I would use this more as a lid or shade topper because you just don't get that much pigment to it. It's really just a whole bunch of glitter that you lay down. So I just wanted to mention that because I tried that all over my lid and it was a hot mess. It was basically just glitter that kind of went everywhere. So really it's more of a shade topper than anything else, but it's beautiful. And if you really want to amp up your look and just add that extra amount of bam glitter, it's definitely a beautiful way to do that because it's basically just all glitter. So I wanted to mention that, but this palette is so beautiful. I'm so glad I have it. Okay, and then last but certainly not least, we have the L'Oreal Paradise Enchanted palette. By the way, I wanted to mention that the Lemonade Craze palette is definitely scented, but I don't really know what it's supposed to be scented as. Like, it's not lemonade, it's just, it has a very interesting scent. Let me know down below if you've smelt this and if you know what this is supposed to be, because I really couldn't tell you that it smells like anything in particular. It definitely doesn't smell like lemonade, I don't think. Maybe like artificial lemonade? I don't know. Let me know down below if you've smelled this and you know what it's supposed to smell like, because I have no clue. However, this palette, I know exactly what it smells like. It is just the most amazing, juicy peach smell, but it's not artificial. I love the fact that it's not artificial. So if you have a problem with the scent of, say, the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette, if that's just too sweet and artificial for you, then you're really gonna like the scent of this one because it's very natural and really just smells like you just opened a nice juicy peach. It smells amazing. I could sit here and smell this all day. Like my mouth waters every time I smell this because it smells so good. But moving on to the actual shades, the first thing I noticed when I opened this up is that it reminds me a lot of the Maybelline palette, just without those two pops of color of the pink and the yellow. So if you take those two out, you've got a very similar palette scheme here. We've got a mid-tone warm brown, you've got a nice chocolate brown in each, you've got 4 nice shimmery gold that you could put on the upper lid, all in similar undertones. One is more like a golden gold, one is more like a pinky gold. You've also got a nice pinky copper shade, and then of course your basic pink and yellow cream matte shades. So all in all, these palettes are very, very similar. So if you were looking at this one, you're like, yeah, that looks pretty, but I don't know if I would use that pink and yellow too much, I would say you might like this one because, like I said, very, very, very similar shades in this, just doesn't have those pops of colors as much. But talking about this palette in itself, this is a very different formula than the other two because this one is very, very hard, compressed, packed shadows. You don't get pretty much any kickback when you put your brush in, and it actually takes quite a bit of digging to get the amount of pigment that you would want. This is actually the one that I am wearing on my lids or on my eyes in general today. And it really took me a while to, like, I would take my fluffy blending brush here and I would put it into the mid-tone brown here, and I really had to keep digging and digging and digging and putting it on my eye, and then digging and putting it on my eye, which I appreciate to some level because I am quite a savage. When I do my eyeshadow, I like to be able to just kind of attack it and put it in, so I do appreciate the fact that it's a little more packed so you're not going to create quite as much of a mess. And if you like to kind of slowly build up your eyeshadow, this is going to be a good formula for you because you really do have to slowly build it up because you just don't get that much pigment off of, you know, the first couple of dips. But that is just with the mattes. The shimmers are intense almost immediately, and they're so soft. The softness really did kind of surprise me. I mean, they're just so pretty. And these mattes, I mean, that pigment, and that's off of one swipe. Like, look at that. There's no even like skipping or patchiness to them. It's just one smooth swipe. It's beautiful. Now, the one thing I did want to mention about this palette is that you really only have 3 colored mattes. You've got the mid-tone brown, a little bit of darker brown, and then a nice chocolate brown. And that's pretty much it for your colored mattes. You've got these 2 mattes here, this one and this one, which are basically just a skin tone cream type of shade that really just don't show up on anything or as anything. So this is a very much like everyday, get the same basic look with a pop of color on the lid type of palette. So if you don't like that, this might not be your cup of tea because you're really not going to get too many different looks besides the lid color out of this palette. So if you look at this and you're like, yeah, it just doesn't have enough difference, then the Maybelline palette is a great option because it does have those pops of colors, and it does have a few other just basic mattes that you can kind of create a little bit different looks out of. So just wanted to mention that because a lot of people don't like to have too many basic everyday palettes in their collection, which I totally understand. There's only so many that you can spend your money on. So just wanted to mention that. Now, I will have all 3 of these linked down below if I can find them. I will say that these 2 are cheaper on Amazon. So honestly, I wouldn't buy them from Ulta unless you're really looking to get those points because they're like $3 to $4 more on Ulta's website than they are on Amazon. So I will have the Amazon listing listed down below, and I will have the Ulta one listed down below, very clearly listed so that you can know which one you want to click on. But just want to mention that they are more expensive on Ulta's website. Like I said, I think the Rimmel one is a Walgreens exclusive, and I don't know if it's online yet, so I will look. But if it's not, just go ahead and check your local Walgreens, because it did not take me long at all to find this, which it normally does because my Walgreens suck at getting stuff in. But just wanted to mention that. So I hope you guys liked today's video. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in tomorrow's video for the rest of Drugstore Week.